And good day once again, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Gun on One. It is powered by the Inside the Birds Network. I'm Derrick Gunn. Well, there's no team hotter right now in the NFL than the Philadelphia Eagles. They are smoking, and everybody has a reason why. So I went to the man, the myth, the legend. He is a jack of all trades for ESPN and a master of all of them. My good friend, we haven't talked to in a long time, Sal Paolantonio, who, by the way, has a new edition of an incredible book. Back out again. And also, we're going to talk about a Hall of Fame candidate later in this podcast who's got to get in. He's just got to get in. But before we get to that, let's get to the matter at hand. And Sal, good to hear from you, my man. How you been?
Hey, it's definitely great to be on the show. Thanks for the invitation. When I got your email, when I was at M&T Bank Stadium, Eagles-Ravens last Sunday, I was excited to say absolutely yes. Haven't been one-on-one with D. Gunn in a long time. And as I have on my refrigerator, you are where you're supposed to be, my brother. And that's
You still have it. You still have it.
30 years at ESPN. I still have it.
Wow.
I remember that. It was in the parking lot at NovaCare where you gave me that advice. Right. You are where you're supposed to be.
That's right, man. That's awesome, man. I am on the refrigerator of the legendary Sal Paolantonio. My life is complete now, man. Hey, so first thing I got to ask you.
You never know where you're going to get words of wisdom.
I know. I get them every day. Two questions in one to start off with. First of all, what was your mindset going into that Eagles-Ravens matchup in terms of how you thought the game was going to play out? And secondly, how surprised were you by the way the game actually turned itself out?
Well, I was surprised by how the game turned out, for sure. The Eagles were underdogs on the road. I've seen a lot of good teams go into M&T Bank Stadium, whether it was Ray Lewis, Joe Flacco, Ed Reed, John Harbaugh coaching the team, or Ted Marchibroda. It doesn't matter. You go in there late in the year and you're playing these guys who are going to the Hall of Fame. And you get boat race like Miami last year, New Year's Eve. They had a very good team, and they went in there and lost 56-13. Lamar Jackson had more touchdown passes, D-Gun, in that game than he had incompletion. So I was obviously skeptical because I've seen other good teams come in there, and I've seen the late season Lamar Jackson show up. I think the biggest surprise, without a doubt, right now is the Eagles defense. You know, there's been a lot of attention, rightfully so, focused on Saquon Barkley. Record-setting performance, could, set the all-time rushing record. But they have totally flipped the script on a defense that was a sieve last year. A defense that gave up yards and points in big chunks. And really, it was the defense that was to blame for the collapse at the end of last season. It was the defense that was to blame for the loss in Tampa earlier this year. So they go into the bye and they fix it. Not only do they fix it, since week 6, they're giving up 15 points a game. And you've covered football your whole life.
Yeah.
If your defense is giving up, what did Jim Johnson, the late great defensive coordinator, say? I'll keep it under 17 points. You do the rest. 15 points a game means you're going to win a lot of games. And one thing that I was taught by Coach Vermeil very early on, in November, December, and January, there are 3 major indicators as to whether or not you are going to play championship level football. Number 1, your quarterback is not turning the ball over. Check. Jalen's protecting the ball. 2, your running back has a high number of carries. Check. Rushing attempts is much more important than rushing yards. Check. The last thing is points allowed, which is always, it's like ERA in baseball. If your team ERA in baseball is low, you're going to win a lot of baseball games. If points allowed is low in December and January, you're going to win championship level football games.
You mentioned one guy in particular I have to hit on right away. Saquon Barkley, the rebirth of Saquon. This guy's got 1,499 yards rushing through 12 games. He only needs 607 yards in the last 5 games to surpass Eric Dickerson's all-time single-season record. We knew he was good during his tenure in New York, and a lot of people thought he didn't have much left coming here because he was so beat down in New York. Are you surprised by what he's putting up right now?
Well, these numbers are astronomical. They're historic. There's no question about it. They're just different numbers. And we haven't seen that kind of play out of a running back in a long time. It's not only what he's doing, but how he is doing it. Three things that you see all the time with this guy: power running, ability to make guys miss, and then, I mean, come on, the reverse hurdle of a defensive back.
Jeez.
That's Spider-Man. He's Spider-Man. And then the last thing is the speed, the back end speed. He's routinely reaching 21 miles per hour once he breaks free of the second level of the defense, which means what? D-Gun, he can outrun the secondary, the fastest guy on the secondary on most teams. So, but we have to go back to the number one thing. It's the offensive line.
Yep.
You remember in your great days of covering the Eagles daily, first guy you want to talk to is Lane Johnson or Jason Kelce.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. You lose Jason Kelce, and the offensive line is better.
Jeez.
It's better. Mekhi Becton has not played guard. The first time he played guard was when he was with the Eagles. So 8 months ago, he had never suited up in an NFL game or practice at the position of guard. And now you see him calling signals, generating the snap with a tap of the center, Cam Jurgens, on Jurgens' right thigh with his left hand, setting the protection. Mekhi Becton may go to the Pro Bowl, and he wasn't even a guard 8 months ago. That's Jeff Stoutland. It's unbelievable. The last 25-yard touchdown run for Saquon Barkley, I'm sure you've seen the film of it.
Yeah.
Jordan Mailata comes from the left side, pulls over. So now you have Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata in that gap. And I asked Saquon Barkley about it after the game, and he said, I just closed my eyes and trusted that it would be a parting of the ways. And I said, really, did you close your eyes? He goes, no, but it was blind faith. And that's what is developed with this offensive line. I mean, I don't think I'm overstating this, D-Gun.
Yeah.
I think all five guys should go to the Pro Bowl.
Oh, my goodness. Wouldn't that be something? Oh, my goodness. This team, Sal, is just running through people, not just over people, but running through people. This is not a Kellen Moore offense we've grown accustomed to seeing through the years. From your perspective, how has he been able to adapt to this, a dominant running team like this?
I know, but here's the funny part. Me and you sitting here on this show, we can figure it out.
Yeah.
We can look at that team and say, okay, Mailata, Dickerson, Jurgens, Becton, Johnson. I think we ought to run the ball behind those five guys. And I'm sure that they plugged in the tape. And I'm sure Jeff Stoutland went in there and said, knock, 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 Kellen Moore, let's run the football, because I'm telling you, we got the juice to do it.
Jeez. Hey, Sal, when we look at Jaylen Hurts during this 8-game winning streak, the word efficient comes to mind. He's only averaging 21, 22 passes a game. When we look at quarterbacks, as you know, in the NFL, everybody wants to see the gaudy numbers, 50 passes, 350 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's not Jaylen's way of doing things. And more importantly, he's not turning the football over. I think Nick Sirianni, Kellen Moore have done an incredible job. Plus, he's making the big throws when he has to. He doesn't have to throw it a lot, but he's making the big throws when he has to. I think the coaching staff has done an incredible job of playing to his strengths, and he's done an incredible job of making it work.
Well, there's a couple of things there, right? First of all, he has allowed his ego to be shelved a little bit.
Yeah.
He's put his ego aside and said, I know what this team is about. It's a run-first team. when you're averaging 21 pass attempts, you have the lowest number of you're 10-2. 10. The gaudy number is 10 wins.
Yep.
When you're 10-2 and you're throwing the fewest passes in the NFL, that's extremely unusual. It's sort of like what the Steelers did with Ben Roethlisberger when he was a rookie. Now, he was a rookie when they said, you know what, we're not going to allow him to throw more than 20 times a game. We got Jerome Bettis. We're going to hand it to the bus. We're going to get on the bus, and we're going to go all the way to Detroit, and we're going to win a Super Bowl. But Roethlisberger at that point was not the experienced franchise quarterback making big money like Jaylen Hurts. But I got to tell you, the maturity of Jaylen Hurts is really what stands out here, right? He has said, I don't care. In fact, he was asked about it last week. If you remember, it was the first thing asked in his press conference. I think it might have been our friend John McMullen, who's always good in the press conferences. He asks great questions. I think it was our friend John McMullen said, is it strange that you're 9-2? This was before the Baltimore game. That you're 9-2 and you're only throwing 20 passes a game. And Jaylen just paused, looked around the room a little bit, got in front of the mic real close and said, it's not strange. Look at our record.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. You talk to a lot of people around the league. What are teams and coaches saying about Jaylen Hurts?
Well, let's look at specifics. Okay. So after the Ravens game, I specifically talked to a couple of the Ravens players and coaches, and they said, did you see once we had the rookie corner, it was number 2, Nate Wiggins. I wanted to get his number right. Nate Wiggins was one-on-one on A.J. Brown on the outside, way off the formation. A.J. Brown was split wide to the right. So he was the XY. He was the Z receiver to the right, isolated by himself. It was 1st and 10 at around the 50-yard line. The Eagles were still behind at that point. And they had Wiggins isolated one-on-one on A.J. Brown, but Wiggins was off the ball by about 12 yards.
Yeah.
Jaylen Hurts comes to the line of scrimmage and pulls a check with me. And I guess they had a running play on. I don't know what they had on, but he gets the ball in the shotgun. The ball comes out real quick. A.J. Brown runs a skinny little slant route in front of Wiggins, 12-yard gain. And that was the first big gain to A.J. Brown in that game. So I think what people are saying and seeing with Jaylen Hurts is the willingness to adjust. So I don't put too much stock into their slow starts because Moore and Hurts and the rest of the offensive staff are adjusting. And then Saquon Barkley is the Mariano Rivera. He's the Enter the Sandman. Remember they played that song when Rivera came into Yankee Stadium, came out of the bullpen. They'd open up the doors of the bullpen, and Mariano would run out there into the Sandman. That's Saquon. Look at those numbers in the fourth quarter that I sent you.
That's unbelievable. That the numbers are phenomenal. What this offense is doing. Is this offense? I hate to use the term because we see good offenses every year. But the way this offense is playing right now, is this offense unstoppable? The only way it can be stopped is if they stop themselves?
Well, yeah, it goes back to the turnovers for sure. Yeah. But, their ability to adjust. This is a mature group. Moore is a mature, experienced offensive coordinator. The quarterback is a mature, experienced leader at the quarterback position. Gunn, Jaylen Hurts' longest pass in that game was 17 yards to Dallas Goedert, the touchdown. His longest pass to A.J. Brown was 15. So they looked at what the Ravens presented. The Ravens came off the ball and said, we're not going to give you the big plays that have been the signature of what the Eagles have done in the passing game up to that point. They said, you know what? You don't have Devontae. So you don't have the deep threat. So we're going to have everything in front of us. And so Jaylen just said, okay, we'll take this, we'll take that, we'll take this. No passes longer, pass completions longer to A.J. Brown than 15 yards. That's the thing. And then Saquon, the numbers in the fourth quarter, I sent them to you.
Yeah.
They're historic.
Yes.
So he, and when you can do that with that offensive line in the fourth quarter, you saw it against the Rams. You saw it against the Bengals. You saw it against the Ravens. You saw it against New Orleans. All three of those games four of them on the road, fourth quarter, the defense was demoralized. There was a great shot in L.A. of Cooper Kupp after the game. He had his helmet on. His eyes were glazed over. You could just see, like, what just happened to us? We're home. We're supposed to be dominant in our building. It's a gotta-have-it game for us in an NFC West that's wide open. And we allowed Philadelphia to just come in and steamroll us.
What Vic Fangio has done with this young defense is nothing short of incredible. They have the youngest starting defensive unit in the NFL, average age 25. How's Fangio doing this, Sal? It's unbelievable.
Now, I know you're a man of literature, so you know Hemingway's book, The Old Man and the Sea.
Yes, yes.
Well, this is The Old Man and the D.
I love it. I love how you put that. Oh my goodness. Oh man.
And you got all three levels. You got Jalen Carter, Zack Bond, Cooper DeJean, and Quinyon Mitchell. Wow. All of them playing at a very high level. But even Tony Romo figured it out, right? I say that, kiddingly. I like Tony as a person. As a broadcaster, that's a whole nother story. But, even Tony Romo showed it on the broadcast, how, Fangio has these guys in a very disciplined state. Command and control is there. And you have a guy who's Jalen Carter was double teamed and held so much in that game.
Yes. Sal, I want to break down some of this defensive personnel. Let's start with this kid, Quinyon Mitchell. I mean, he's still evolving. He doesn't even have a full season under his belt. And yet teams are not throwing to his side. Did you see him becoming this good? I mean, we're talking about Sauce Gardner, Patrick Surtain level stuff here. Did you see him becoming this good this quickly?
I did not. No one predicted it. Out of the MAC, from Toledo to the NFL. But he set the tone early. He said he was not, you could just see he was not going to take anything off anybody. Super tough, super strong. Watch the tape, and you'll see his ability to close on the receiver when the ball is in the air.
Yes.
It's very important to be specific about what he does better than any young corner I have ever seen. And that's closing speed while the ball is in the air. So what does that take? When I talk to coaches, they say it takes, film study. One, what the receiver's tendencies are. Two, correct angle, which means your technique has to be superior. And three, just flat out God-given speed.
I can't wait to see what this kid looks like in year 2 or year 3.
Forget it. He's going to the Pro Bowl as a rookie. Come on.
Yes, I agree. 100%.
I mean, this team could have 8-9 Pro Bowlers easy.
Yes.
I mean, Zack Bond, definitely all-pro, first team all-pro. Quinyon Mitchell, all-pro, Pro Bowl. Cooper DeJean has to be Pro Bowl. Jalen Carter, all-pro defensive tackle, all-pro. All 5 starting offensive linemen. And Saquon. So right there, that's 10 guys you could put in the Pro Bowl easily.
That was almost as many as they had in 2022 when they sent like 9 guys to the Pro Bowl.
And it's not because we're talking about the Eagles and this is a team that we cover, but it's the consensus around the league.
Yeah. I think, Sal, Cooper DeJean may be the steal of the draft. That tackle he put on Derrick Henry was textbook But he's been doing it ever since. He missed the first several games rehabbing from an injury. But this kid is unbelievable. Fearless, technically sound, and always around the football.
You know, you and I have been covering a lot of games over the years. So when you're in the press box, you have a pair of binoculars.
Yeah.
And you can't watch. The last thing to do is watch the football. So you find somebody to watch, right? To really focus on. That's the key of how you cover a game. So you look at something and you say, all right, this guy's going to have a game, or this guy's not going to have a game. I got to see what's going on here. Sometimes I get just caught watching Cooper DeJean and I can't stop. I can't stop watching him. There's no wasted motion. He's always in the right spot.
Yeah.
And boy, I tell you, the one thing that I caution about the team is we have a few injuries kind of piling up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, Huff is not back yet. I don't know when he's coming back. BG, your guy, out for the year.
Yeah.
Dallas on and off the field with the hamstring. Devontae can't get on the field with the hamstring. And now Reed Blankenship, I don't know what his status is. So
yeah.
I'm interested to see, not today's Wednesday, I'm interested to see tomorrow's practice report from the Eagles with about 3 or 4 guys. I want to see where they are. I didn't even mention Slay. I'd have to have him on my list. Slay, concussion, didn't play last week. I mean, they didn't miss a beat last week. Blankenship went out in the game. Dallas went out. Devontae and Slay weren't available. BG and Huff weren't available. And they sent Baltimore packing. I agree with our old friend Al Morgani, who said on the radio, I think, it was the most impressive regular season win for the Eagles in 10, 15 years.
You agree with that?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Wow.
I would say it's right up there with beating the Rams the day Carson Wentz got hurt in 2017,
Okay.
week 11.
Wow. My goodness. Okay. You mentioned Zack Bond. Here's a guy who was nothing more than an afterthought down in New Orleans. He comes here. He's playing at an all-pro level. I mentioned the rebirth of Saquon earlier in this podcast. You talk about a guy being reborn in a Vic Fangio defense. You know, there's a lot of people you can give accolades to, but Zack Bond, my goodness, who is this guy and where did he come from all of a sudden?
Also, record-setting performance.
Yes.
When Luke Kuechly won Defensive Player of the Year, and you're going to have to remind me the year because I'm not good with that stuff. It was like 8 years ago, 8 years ago. Zack Bond is already ahead of him going into week 14 in all the major categories. I think Zack Bond's definitely in the conversation, top of the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year in the National Football League.
Really?
Yes. Look at the tackles for loss, forced fumbles, interceptions. He leads the NFL in total tackles.
Jeez. Wow. It seems like.
And you know the story, right? I mean, initially they signed him and, you know, it was recommended to the coaching staff that he would be a backup as an off-the-ball linebacker. You know, we've heard the stories. Tim McManus, my colleague at .com, did a great piece on Zach. And, you know, they signed the guy out of Tampa. And
Devin White.
Devin White. And then they had a summer where they just said and shocked everybody and said, well, you know, he's like 4th on the depth chart. And Zack Bond is number 1 on the depth chart with a bullet. And Nakobe Dean, too, healthy, playing well. And, you know, not the greatest size in the world with Nakobe Dean, but still playing very, very, very high level. So, you know, things have really fallen into place under Fangio. And, you know, you have to wonder what's going on down there in Miami.
You mentioned something that's very pertinent here about Jalen Carter getting held in the Baltimore game. Not just the Baltimore game, but it seems like every game. He is just wrecking offensive lines right now. What can Sirianni and these guys do about sending film clip to the league office to get some help with this? I mean, because it's becoming blatant in terms of how he's being held. at the snap of the ball.
I agree with you. It was blatant in the Baltimore game.
Yes.
It was blatant in the Baltimore game, 100%. And, going into that game, Baltimore led the NFL in offensive holding calls.
Yes.
And the referee, Craig Rolstad, his crew, was 4th in the league in calling offensive holding, and they didn't really call it in the game against Jalen Carter. They just allowed him to hold them. So I would hope that the front office, the analytics department, whoever, Nick Sirianni, is sending clips to the NFL and saying he's getting double teams, getting held by 2 guys, and they're getting away with it.
Just about every move outside of Devin White, just about every move Howie made this offseason has really panned out, from the draft to free agencies. Do you think he's in line right now to pick up his 3rd Executive of the Year award?
Hey, we're giving out awards on this show. Let's give out another one.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, but you can make the case. He drafts the 2 young corners, brings in Bond, and of course, the steal of the century. I mean, let's call it what it is. The steal of the 21st century is Saquon Barkley.
Yes.
Dave Gettleman should send him a nice case of wine for the holidays for proving his point about Saquon Barkley. All you need is an offensive line. John Lennon said, all you need is love. No. You need an offensive line, what you need.
Oh my goodness. You mentioned earlier my guy Brandon Graham. I mean, he was their best edge rusher until he goes down and he's done for the season. 36 years old, playing like he's 26 years old. He jokingly, when he's been asked, do you think you might come back next year? He has initially, earlier in the year, he said this was his final year. Now he's saying, I don't know.
I know, but you've been in his home. I haven't. You know his wife and you know his family. There's nobody that knows BG better than you. So, that's going to be a tough sell in the Graham household for him to come back next season. That.
His wife's going to have a lot to say about that.
Yes.
There's no question about that.
Yeah. I've been in that locker room when he's FaceTiming with his wife, okay? It's there's a lot going. She is the one that runs the house. There's no question. We all know that. We know that. So she's going to have a lot to say. But I hope he comes back because you're right. I mean, he was in tremendous shape. He was running around like he was 25.
I mean, look at Calais Campbell. He's 39 and still playing? Why can't BG do it another year at 37?
37. Wow. Howie Roseman's first draft pick. How about that?
Think about that. Isn't that something? Oh, my goodness. You have a lot of access to coaches, especially Eagles coaches and stuff. I want to get your impressions of Nick Sirianni. I mean, we all have different opinions of him. In the beginning of the year, first 4 or 5 games, everybody wanted him run out of town. Now, all of a sudden, Nick is the Pied Piper of Philadelphia. You get a chance to talk to Nick away from cameras and stuff like that. What's your impression of him in terms of coaching and how he handles the pressures of Philadelphia?
I like him, first of all.
Yeah.
I like him as a person. I think he's a good family man. He comes from a great family. I think he is super passionate about his job, wants to work, knows what he's doing. So all of those things are true. I think this may be his best coaching job ever, right? Why? Well, he was handed a defensive coordinator that said, I'm going to do it my way, get out of my way, right? Okay. He's got to shelve his ego there. He's handed an offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. Again, Kellen Moore's going to design and run the offense. I'll take your input, coach, but there's going to be the play callings from Kellen Moore. Right? He's got a franchise quarterback, Jaylen Hurts, who's got his money, but has a maturity and experience level where he's a coach on the field.
Yep.
So, Nick Sirianni had to learn to work within that framework, and I think it was a work in progress for him. Obviously, what happened in Tampa was a huge disappointment at the beginning of the year. But it's been a revelation ever since. To me, we're still giving out awards. Coach of the Year, got to be. Him and Dan Campbell got to be Coach of the Year candidates, 100%. Got to be. So I think the old line is true. You are what your record says you are.
Yeah.
He has the 4th best winning percentage in NFL history. The 3 guys ahead of him are all in the Hall of Fame. He has won 72% of his road games. Think about that for a second. If you're in hockey or you're in basketball or you're in baseball and you're winning 72% on the road, you're winning a World Series, you're winning a Stanley Cup, you win the Larry O'Brien Trophy. So 72%. But here's what's got to happen now. What's got to happen is they've got to avoid the late season collapse that they had last year. And 2, they got to get to the Super Bowl and win it. It's really hard to do. Super hard to do. So I don't think there's any team that would be favored over them right now other than Detroit in Detroit.
Okay. I was going to ask you, is this team better than Detroit?
Yes.
Okay.
Offensive line is better. Running back better. They got 2 of them. They're good. Defense is better. All the way around, I think they're better than Detroit. But Detroit will be tough to beat in Detroit.
Detroit's got a much tougher schedule down the road. When you look at the Eagles' schedule, their last 5 games, 3 of their opponents have losing records. They've already beaten Washington. Pittsburgh is going to be interesting. But they play Pittsburgh at home.
Things get a little cranky, though, of course, at the end of the season, right? They always do.
Sure.
Right? So Carolina's put up a couple of interesting fights recently. They're not going to go away easily. They're not. But Fangio against Bryce Young, I like the Eagles' chances. That's why the Eagles are double-digit favorites in the game. Steelers, they can play.
Yep.
They can play. 100%. That's a hard game. I'm going to be in the ESPN radio booth as the analyst for that game. Steve Levy doing the play-by-play. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be doing TV and radio. That'll be a big, big, big game. 4 o'clock game in South Philadelphia. That'll be crazy, great game. And I got to tell you, G-Gun, I'm going to say it on your show.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a lot of backlash. I don't want to play Dallas right now.
Really? Dallas? Why?
They're playing with a high level of confidence.
But you're playing them here. You're going to play them here.
I know. They're just playing different now. Micah Parsons is healthy. They're playing a different brand of ball. They will be a tough out. That game will be a tough out. It will.
Wow. I never
and
thought,
then playing
Washington.
And then Washington could be trying to stave off Dallas at that point. Washington, that'll be a tough game. So I don't think their schedule is that easy as compared. Now, Detroit plays at home
against Green Bay
Thursday night against Green Bay. I think Detroit loses that game.
Well, Green Bay beat them in Detroit last year.
I think Detroit loses that game. I've covered a couple of Green Bay games recently. I like the way Green Bay is playing. I think Josh Jacobs is doing, about 70% of what Saquon's doing. Jordan Love is turning the ball over. If he doesn't turn the ball over, they win.
We keep hearing that the Eagles and Lions are on this collision course for the NFC Championship game. But, okay, you just mentioned Green Bay, but who's a dark horse or dark horses we need to keep eyes on in the NFC?
I think it's only Green Bay.
Just really?
Yes. I don't think Seattle – you think Seattle could come into Lincoln Financial Field to win?
No.
Dallas in the playoffs? No.
What about Minnesota?
No.
No?
No.
Wow.
I think Green Bay is your biggest problem because they have almost a duplicate carbon copy of what the Eagles do. Their defense is good, not as good. Their running back is good, not as good. Their quarterback is good, not as good. They have a good, experienced head coach. And a young defensive coordinator in Jeff Hafley. And Hafley was not afraid to pull the trigger on the blitz. And they've got some good corners. And they got Xavier McKinney, who's going to take the ball away.
Yeah.
So, maybe that Brazil game, like we said, back in Brazil when I was there in Sao Paulo, week 1, was the preview of this NFC Championship game. I actually said it on the air. I said this could be a preview of the NFC Championship game in Philadelphia. That could happen.
What? Wow. So somebody's going to blow Detroit out then?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I said Green Bay might beat Detroit. I think they will beat Detroit in Detroit this week. It's on Thursday.
Wow. All right. Well, you know what? Enough of the football X's and O's talk. I want to get to something that's near and dear to your heart. You released a book a long time ago, an incredible book that was a favorite for a long time. And I understand now it's a new release of How Football Explains America by yours truly. Why this particular time to re-release it again? And can you tell my audience and viewers what this version of it entails?
It's a stocking stuffer.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
They re-released the book because the demand was still very, very high for the book. It's still used in colleges and high schools. It's still, still a lot of people still buy it or ask for it. So they did a new print of it, and it's got a new introduction to it. And it's all about how and why the game was created and how culture in America influenced the game and how the game influenced American culture. So that never goes out of style. And I appreciate that. You can get it on Amazon.com, Triumph Books. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. I got to send you a new copy, D.
Yes, but, please. Look, not just a new copy. I want a new autograph copy.
Oh, yeah, that's no problem.
Okay.
Right. I would be happy to do that. Thank you so much. How Football Explains America, Triumph Books. And we're in the middle of voting for the Hall of Fame for the class of 2025.
Yes.
And we got to get Eric Allen in, the original shutdown corner. So send out all that material that I gave you about Eric Allen. Get it on your social media. Tell your friends to generate buzz for him. Let's get these voters thinking like this is the year for Eric Allen. Paul Domowitch, our good friend, is making the presentation, and he's made a great presentation before. We're close. If I had to give the 5 that I think should make it, I don't know if they will, it would be Eric Allen, Eli Manning, Jari Evans from our area, guard, offensive lineman for the Super Bowl team in New Orleans. Obviously, Eli Manning, in my view. And then one of the wide receivers, Reggie Wayne or Torrey Holt or Steve Smith Sr. So, I mean, I think Eric Allen deserves to be in that group. And I know Damo's going to make a great presentation, but I would implore Eagles fans all over the country listening to the One on Gun podcast, get on social media, look at my Instagram, Sal Pal ESPN on Instagram. I lay out the case that's been presented by Paul Domowitch, Troy Aikman, Phil Simms, John Gruden. Everybody's in the Eric Allen camp. This is the year. He's waited 19 years to get in. It's too long. It's crazy. He's got more interceptions than 8 corners that are in the Hall of Fame.
Sal, 5 times he's been a semifinalist. He's a finalist this year. Why do you think he's continuously bypassed? When you put it so eloquently, his numbers are comparable to guys in the Hall of Fame. Why do you think he continuously gets overlooked?
It's been a very competitive environment. I've been on the committee now for 12 years. It's a very competitive environment. That's the number one reason, I think. If you go back to that 91 defense, Pro Football Focus named that 91 defense of the Eagles as the best defense in the last 35 years. And he was on that defense. And the only guy in the Hall of Fame from that defense is Reggie White. How's that possible?
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
So, people like Paul Domowitch and myself, we're trying to get Philadelphia people in Canton. I did it with Dick Vermeil, Harold Carmichael. Damo did it with Brian Dawkins. Ray Dinger did it with Tommy McDonald. So, it's really up to us to get the word out so we can get these voters to get in line and vote. But this is a tough environment because it's so competitive. But
Sal
thanks,
Pal.
D-Gun. Do what you can. I know you have a loyal following on social media. You got to do your part, brother.
All right, man. Sal, I can't thank you enough for giving me some extended time today. It's been a long time coming. Don't be surprised if I hit you up again down the road before this season is all said and done to talk some more football, my friend.
Hey, I am where I'm supposed to be, brother.
I love it. And ladies and gentlemen, he is the one and only Sal Paolantonio, a master of all trades at ESPN, accomplished author, and don't forget again, stocking stuffer, the new release of How Football Explains America. Get it for a family member, get it for yourself, but get it. Sal, thank you, my brother. I appreciate you.